We're back, and our guest today, Senator Jim Wilson. And Senator Wilson, a lot of discussion in the last few years about some water transfer. And of course, here in eastern Oklahoma, there is a lot of water. But our neighbors to the south in Texas seem to be wanting a lot of our water. What's going on in the Senate and the House with some of those discussions?
We tried a few years ago to put a moratorium on water until we could complete a comprehensive water study. And that won't be done until 2011. And Tarrant County, which is Fort Worth, decided they wanted some of our water and that this moratorium was unconstitutional, violated the federal trade laws. So they took us to court. So this last spring we did manage to accommodate whatever the courts needed so that we could continue with this water study to see where we were in 2011. Their argument is that we're dumping all this water into the Red River that they could ultimately be using. And the problem with that argument is there's a compact between Arkansas and Louisiana and Oklahoma that we would probably get sued if we sold that water. Because even though it goes in the Red River and it then becomes briny, it's not necessarily wasted because it affects their mixture of salt down below us. So the truth is we don't know enough to sell it yet. And once you sell water, you can never stop selling it.
Right.
So if we accommodate Texas, Fort Worth, or Northeast Texas, and we give them millions of gallons of water and we commit to it 1 year, we cannot stop.
Right.
So that's why we have to be careful.
Well, I'm sure it will continue to be an issue as the need for water in Texas increases and the pressure probably on the state legislature to respond to some of that.
Yes, it will.
What about some of the other, each year our bill filing seems to increase every year, a lot of different bills in the Senate and the House. Last year was, I don't know if it was a record number, but it was a significant number of bills. Tell us a bit about that process briefly and kind of how you see that rolling through this session for the Senate.
Okay, each legislature has 2 sessions. It's a 2-year process. So the very first session we'll see 2,500 bills filed. Now, to be fair, 20% of those bills are what we call shell bills, they're appropriations bills. We don't have any language in them, and we use those for the mechanics of doing the budget. So that leaves us about 2,000 bills that most of which we're not going to hear. Then the second session we come along, we do almost as many bills, another 2,000 as opposed to 2,500 the first 2 years. And a lot of these bills are re-election bills, what I call re-election bills. Somebody decides that it would be endear them to their constituents if they named a bridge after somebody, or if they gave you a sales tax holiday. So these are things that are never going to see the light of day. They're probably not going to get a committee hearing, and even if they do get a committee hearing, it's a long way to the end of session. So probably 20% of the bills that are filed, not counting the budget bills, will get a hearing. And most of those will not be signed into law. So it's, but that's what we do with the citizen legislature. Everybody has an idea. The reason they go to Oklahoma City, or the reason they run for office and go to Oklahoma City, is they're going to change the world.
Yes.
And you don't do that in the legislative process. The world doesn't change that quickly.
No.
But, and we see a lot of, for instance, we see their background come out in them, the legislators.
Right.
We have a lot of retired educators in the legislature. So we see a lot of classroom bills, things that they were frustrated with maybe when they were in the classroom.
Right.
And so they say, well, we're going to require that people have a financial course so they can learn how to balance their checkbook. Probably a good idea.
Yes.
Don't know if it's the legislators that need to be involved.
Might be some benefit to that.
There might be. So anyway, that's the kind of thing we see. People with their history. My history was in computers, of course, so I'm concerned about the $350 million we spend every year on automation. So you bring your background with you.
Right, right.
There's a conception that a lot of lawyers, there's a lot of lawyers in the legislature, and there are, but they're not the majority.
Okay, good.
So
And that's probably a common misconception.
It's a misconception. In the old days, before lawyers could advertise because of ethics, to get their name out, they'd be in the legislature, they'd run for office, but now that they can advertise, a lot of them don't want to take the cut and pay.
Right.
So anyway, people bring their backgrounds, and that's how it works. We all meld together, and ultimately we hopefully we create some good products.
And what about, excuse me, the 2010 is the year of the census, and there will be some reapportionment, realignment of districts. It's very important that everybody understand census really has a big long-term impact on eastern Oklahoma. Just briefly give the audience a little bit of information about why that's so important to a Senate district or a House district.
It is very important because we do reapportion. We will do that based on the 2010 census, and it will go into effect for the elections of 2012. And what will happen is because of the Constitution and the interpretation by the Supreme Court, we have all these districts have to be the same size, same number of people,
population-wise.
Population-wise. And so, and they can't be gerrymandered. We can't run a little strip down Highway 51, for instance. So, because of that, and because of these court rulings, we divide this up. And I probably have 80,000 people in my district right now. I should only have 71,000, based on the last census.
Right.
But we are growing in this area.
Right.
So my district will contract.
Okay.
And the same with everybody in eastern Oklahoma. Eastern Oklahoma is growing, so we'll see those districts contract. One of the things that happens, politics gets involved. 10 years ago when we did this, they put, there's only one congressional district that can possibly elect a Democrat, and that's District 2, which we're in.
Right.
They put 25 counties into that district. So Dan Bourne, who's our congressional representative, has to travel from the north boundary to the south boundary. And the idea was to not let anybody else ever have any other Democrat ever have a chance of succeeding. So when you have the power, you can make that happen. So there's still some politics. There's been some thought, and there have been some bills in the past which haven't passed, that we would create a separate autonomous commission to do redistricting. And that probably makes a lot of sense. It probably better represents the people.
So
that hasn't happened.
The process is going to be the census will be compiled in 2010, all the processing and a compilation of information. It'll be put then to a count of the population for districts all over Oklahoma, well, all over the United States, I guess, but for us, in this conversation. And then so the State Election Board will have all that put together, and so those people that run for office in 2012 across Oklahoma may or probably will have some different alignment in most every district because of the growth in the last 10 years.
Sure.
So how does that change the possibilities for us in eastern Oklahoma? Does that mean that there'll be more senators and state reps in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and there's this rural-urban shift on representation? How's that going to impact us?
That's what's been happening. However, we will benefit here in that we'll have more representation here than we've had in the past. And western Oklahoma keeps losing representation.
Right.
And some of those districts are huge. Like the senator that's out in Woodward has the entire panhandle. He's probably got 11 counties.
Wow.
Just one senator. I have 2.5 counties. That will drop back to 2 counties probably. Just because we're growing here, which means that we're going to pick up a half a senator somewhere else.
Okay.
And that's a good thing for us because we'll have more representation.
Well, we're looking forward to I think it's going to be a challenging session. Could be pretty exciting, and we appreciate what you do, Senator Wilson. It's sacrificial, the people that are serving us in state and federal positions of representation, and I just want you to know, on behalf of the people of Tahlequah anyway, in this region, this Senate district, that we really appreciate what you do, and we know you spend a lot of time away from Connie and from Tahlequah and long days and a lot of demands, so we appreciate what you do for us.
Thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely. And we'll be right back.